Hi, I'm Linda Rumpf, reading tutor and parent support coach. And welcome to week 2 of the Weekday Daily Show, where I am going to be helping you build your at-home reading habit. So I went to the internet today to Google up what other people had to say about instituting a new rhythm for reading in the home. And almost every single article actually, first page of Google, second page of Google, was about reading to children at home. What I do is completely different. And maybe that's why I have the results I have. Meantime, we have 2/3 of fourth graders in the United States not reading on grade level. I discovered in my tutoring business that when I'm tutoring a child 2 times a week, but on the other days that I don't tutor them, the parent has the child read to them aloud for reading practice. Those kids cut in half the time it took them to gain grade levels in reading fluency. So, as a reading tutor, one of the things I am hired to do is create fast catch up for readers who are behind grade level. Fast catch up is really important. If it takes you a whole year to catch up a grade level, then that's what they're doing in school anyway. By that time, everyone in your class is, a whole grade level beyond you still. And being behind is just perpetuated. So on a regular basis, my students gain a grade level every 3 months of tutoring with me, which I think is really fast. But last year, when my eyes were open to what a difference a parent reading program at home can make, I had this one little boy, and his mother couldn't even speak English, barely at all. They were an immigrant family. Although he had come to America when he was really young, like 2. So he grew up hearing English, and he sounded like a fluent English speaker. But she was not at all. So she wasn't teaching him anything really during these reading sessions, but she sat him in that chair in the kitchen while she was cooking or feeding the baby every night before dinner. And she said, okay, you're going to read for a half hour. And she was militant. Like, she would set the kitchen timer, on the stove timer. And he jumped a grade level in 6 weeks. He cut the time that it takes me, a fast teacher, to raise a child a grade level. He cut that in half. So it really, really works. There's almost nothing out there about it on the internet. When you look up all kinds of at-home reading or home reading programs or reading with your child, nothing comes up with the child reading to you. But this is really what they need, is that practice. So how do you start that rhythm? How do you maintain that rhythm? How do you make the time? So this is what tonight's about. And I know, because I raised 3 children, that trying to fit in all the things that you have to fit in, especially if you're a working parent, both parents work, multiple jobs sometimes, it's crazy. And some parents travel for work. And then you have the children's extracurricular schedules. Sometimes you're at home and they're not. So it's tricky. I wrote a list of, it turned out to be 12 things. And I struggled at about number 7 or 8, and I thought I was out of ideas, and then more just kept coming. So here's my first little list of ideas for you about how to create this reading habit where it's really for you, it's a listening habit. It's scheduling time to sit and listen to your child read on a daily basis, or at least 3 times a week. I like 3 to 5. But if you're tutoring with a tutor once or twice a week, probably more like twice a week if it's reading tutoring, because reading tutors usually ask for multiple lessons during a week for that repetition factor. So if you're doing that, then if you created reading practice time for your child to read aloud to you 3 more days of the week, that means they'd be reading out loud 5 times a week if they're reading out loud during their tutoring session to their tutor, which I do. And so here's my list. Okay. And this did come up on some lists that I found on the internet of just how to start any kind of new rhythm. First thing in the morning and at bedtime. Those are the number one times when people have been able to find time to do things that they thought they couldn't fit in. Number 3, while in the car for drop off or pickup. So your child's in the back seat and they've got a book and they're reading to you. And, you're a captive audience. Number 4, while you are cooking in the kitchen. This is what that little boy I told you about before, what his mom did. She just combined activities. Her kid was just going to be playing around, running around, waiting for dinner during that last little half hour before dinner while she was cooking anyway. So while she's got everything on the stove or in the oven, and then she sits down to feed the baby, and she's getting ready to serve the meal to the rest of the family, dead time for the child. And he can easily sit at the kitchen table, he or she, and just read to you while you're doing your activities. Boom. Okay, number 5 was while you're feeding the baby. Number 6, when kids come into the kitchen a half an hour before dinner and say they're hungry. And you know how you're always shooing them out of the kitchen, or like, here's some apple slices, or, you give them like a little snack that you don't think will ruin their dinner. Here's a big glass of water, or, something like that. My mom used to say, here's a big glass of water. But she also used to set out veggie plates, and we would snack on the veggie plates. And we got our vegetables eaten that way. Anyway, so that half an hour before dinner, if you're cooking, if you're not cooking, whatever, the kids are hovering. So this is a good thing, a way to get their minds off, having to get through that last half hour before dinner. And it fits into that dead time. Okay, so number 7, on weekends. One of the beautiful things about at-home reading practice is that you can do it in the evenings and on weekends, that it doesn't have to be tied to the school day. You as parents have access to your child. We tutors don't have full access. We only see them once, maybe twice a week, and the school doesn't have full access. They can only do what they can do during the school day. And the federal government has now come down and said that tutoring should not be in replacement of class time anyway. They're going to be changing up the whole way that they do, tutoring in schools, remedial education over the next few years. And you can see that if you read all the articles that are coming out now by the National Student Support Accelerator. It's like the federal government's sort of project for testing out different methods in schools. And they're testing right now, doing the tutoring, not taking children out of class to do their tutoring, doing it after school, doing it before school, during a study hall, but not during the main class time. So I like that, because I've had multiple students who have missed so much learning because they had IEPs and they were taken out of class, the main class routinely. And even people with slight learning disabilities who could take their own notes and could listen to lectures in class and could really learn a lot more than they are through having to miss the main class lectures with the rest of their peers. So weekends are something that you can really utilize. Number 8, when your kid comes into the kitchen for their evening snack, you know how they always come downstairs or upstairs or whatever, like around 9 o'clock, your teenager especially, and you're not really ready for bed yet or anything like that, but you hear them putzing around in the kitchen. Teens have kind of a different circadian rhythm anyway. They come awake in the evening, So if you're a bit of an evening person too, then that could be a perfect time. You could meet them in the kitchen. Number 9 was hook it onto a chore time that's already set, like feeding the pets, cleaning up the house after school, doing dishes, something that your child has to do and they have to do it at the same time every day. If you hook the reading on or any new rhythm on to a very strong rhythm that's already in place, there's more chance that it'll happen. So, if you set that up with your child that, okay, after this, we're going to do this, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, or something like that. It's easier to follow through. You get a little energy from that one rhythm that's already set. Number 10, right after school. A lot of parents have their children sit down and do homework right when they hit the door after school instead of running out to play. Just get it done. Excuse me. Just do what you need to do, and then, go have your free time. So that's another possibility. And it's also a nice way to reconnect with your children too. After they come home from school, they haven't seen you all day. And a lot of times you might sit on the couch and talk anyway. So this is a time when they can read aloud to you. Then you could combine it with homework time. So, excuse me. It's a really dry day here. So we used to have a very strong rhythm when I was growing up of after dinner, my mom would clear the table. We would go out to all of us kids had a rotation. So 2 of us were on duty on any given night as the washer and the dryer of the dishes. And then she would sort of pack up food. And after that, we would all sit at the kitchen table and do our homework. And that was just a nice kind of family thing. It was a nice group time. But also we had access to our parents if we had questions. When we were older, I'd say we did our homework in our rooms. But, during the younger or middle grade school years, we definitely had homework time at the dinner table after dinner. And so hooking it onto homework time, like saying, okay, everybody got their homework done. Now we have to do our 20 minutes of reading aloud. Like it's just a part of what we do. And I will say that I had an informal version of that in my own home when my kids were growing up, especially in the wintertime. And we're coming into this time of year. We're really in it already because it's starting to get cold and blustery outside, at least where I am in the country. I'm in the the Ohio, Kentucky area. So it's definitely getting cold. It hasn't snowed yet, but it's like, it feels like it wants to. And a lot of days are a little bit damp and cold. So it makes them feel even chillier and more bitter outside, a little windy. So this is, late November. And so after homework time, when my kids were little, I used to light a fire in the fireplace. And then we would all sit around the fireplace and read. Now, we were all reading to ourselves, just sort of reading books. Sometimes I would read to them. With a struggling reader, you want them to read aloud to you. That is where they get the practice. That is where they develop their phonological awareness, that they can hear when they make a mistake, that they can hear their own pronunciations and go back and self-correct. And that's also when you can find out how they're really doing. If everyone's sitting around reading silently, how do you know they aren't just kind of looping over and over the same paragraph? That happened with one of my sons. Later it turned out, he was reading a page like a number of times. He had his own issues with the reading, but the reading kind of floated around for him. So you don't know. You won't know what's going on unless that child reads aloud to you. So sitting by the fire in the evening. And then the last one was before screen time. So, I also grew up with a dad who is a Shakespeare scholar, and we got like 4 hours of TV a week. This was in the 70s when everybody used TV for like TV babysitter. Everybody plugged their kids into TV. Like from the time they get home from school, oh yeah, I can make dinner. My kids watch TV. Oh yeah, I can get a lot done after dinner. My kids still watch TV. No, not in our household. My father was always threatening to take out the TV and put in yet another shelf of books. And so we learned at an early age, we were trained that TV and screen time isn't really great for learning. And it's just, it's downtime. It's okay. You can have a little, but it was not a given. And so we had our reading time. We read books, we played outside, and we talked to one another. That's what we did. And we all became very good speakers and very good conversationalists and very social and very healthy from all that playing outdoors, and also great readers. And we learned so much, and we all have amazing vocabularies, went to college because of that early training that, books are really, really important. So, and reading is put right up there as a value system. And that's something we need to do in the home. So those are my tips. And I guess another thing I want to say about my internet research today is that one of the articles, well, I first was using the word rhythm. And then I quickly figured out I had to change to keyword schedule. But as a Waldorf teacher, we always called our schedules our rhythms because it's a little more forgiving. A rhythm is something that moves with you and that you kind of feel your way into, that goes along with the organic cycles of your day. It's like a schedule seems like you're imposing these things. A rhythm is like what you come up with when you kind of look at how things go and you kind of feel out, well, where would be the best place to put something? Where would be the best time to do this based on all the other things I've got going on? So, but when I Googled on rhythm, I got all these things about musical rhythm. But one of the fascinating things that came up was a definition of rhythm as silence and sound. So it's binary. one article said. So you're either doing it or you're not. And I thought that was really related to the starting of a new rhythm, of any kind of new rhythm in the home. Rhythm is like drums. When you think about an orchestra with all the different kinds of instruments, the rhythm section beats out like the time. So it's either sound or it's silent. It's not like kind of making these tones that necessarily go up and down and blend into each other. It's on, off, right? So it kind of, it kind of pulled me up a little inside to think, you know what? Rhythms are either on or they're off. We're either doing it or we're not. And we need to be doing it. We need to be creating time for kids to read to us aloud, to practice their reading. We know reading practice, we know any kind of practice is everything to an athlete, to a musician, to a writer, with learning a new language, anything, any skill. They say if you practice something a half hour a day, you'll become a master of it. And that's what your child needs who's 2 or more grade levels behind at school in reading. They need, number one, quick catch up. And so you've got to speed things up. And number 2, they need repetition. They need practice. If they have deeper underlying issues, like especially working memory issues, or they do letter switching, they're going to need more repetition, not less. And when readers struggle, they tend to not read, because who wants to do something you're not good at, right? So we as parents have to turn that wheel the other direction. So those are my tips, and let me know what you think. If anyone's out there listening, put in a comment. Tell me you're here. Tell me I'm crazy if I think you're going to do this 3 to 5 times a week. Tell me anything. If you watch this on replay, then just put replay in the comments, and let me know about your particular schedule and struggles. I have a student right now whose parent travels a lot for work. And so, we're going to talk further about what she could do later this week. So this whole week is devoted to how do you start your new reading aloud practice for your child at home, and keep to it to get results. All right, everybody, have a great night. And I also want to announce that I am doing a little time shift. 5:30 is usually prime time for tutors. And I just so happen to not have a student at 5:30. So I decided to set these lives at 5:30 on a regular basis. But I have a student now. So I decided, and who knows, I might get one at 4, from 4 to 5. Around after that after school time up through evening that's when we work. That's when we work for your children individually. We see them, we tutor them. So what I've decided, so that I can accommodate this student who wants to work with me when I'm really supposed to be available, I am going to now be broadcasting from 5 to 5:15. So I will be keeping it a little short and sweet compared to my rambling lives from last week, where I was reading to you from fiction books and who all knows what. So from now on, tune in at 5:15. It's just 15 minutes earlier than we've been doing it. And I'll see you then. Tomorrow night, the next secrets. Have a good one.